How many times have you started the 2-week Minecraft phase just to abandon your world? I have countless times, and honestly, I'm starting to get that feeling about this world. So today, I'm going to teach you how to beat it. Today, we're going to break a personal Minecraft curse, get an elytra to speed up exploring, resource gathering, and building, and we are finally going to finish this street that we started all the way back in episode 1. So let's get to it. First things first, I'm so tired of walking around, and this slow pace is making everything harder. So it's time to get an elytra. I need Eyes of Ender to find the stronghold and activate the end portal. So we need to head to our favorite nether fortress to farm some blaze rods and kill some endermen in the warped forest nearby. Once I had everything I needed, I returned to the overworld to track down our stronghold. Thankfully, it wasn't that far away. I found the spot and was able to dig right into the portal room, which of course had none of the frame blocks filled in. So I set up a little camp and prepared to jump into the end. But before we jump in, I have a little confession to make. I've never actually killed the Ender Dragon on my own. I've either had help from friends or given up on my Minecraft world before the fight with the Ender Dragon. So today I have to break that curse and finally solo the Ender Dragon. I ran in feeling very confident, with my good armor and a jack-o'-lantern on my head, firing off arrows to take out the end crystals. Very quickly I realized that 1, I did not bring enough arrows for how bad I am at shooting, and 2, I forgot a water bucket. I had to resort to pillaring up to destroy the end crystals by hand, and hoping Feather Falling 4 was enough to save my life when the dragon hit me off. Eventually, I got all the end crystals, and it was finally time for my epic showdown with the dragon. And it was actually pretty boring. I kinda just waited in the end fountain and poked it when it landed. It was not as difficult as I thought it was going to be. But I did it. I killed it and collected all the sweet XP and the dragon egg. I smartly hopped back into the overworld to keep the dragon egg safe before venturing out to the end islands to look for an elytra. And I've got to say, people love to hate on the end, but I honestly don't get it. I think it is beautiful, and especially with the new purple end flashes or whatever, and just the simplicity of it is so nice. I just think it adds to the experience instead of taking away. So let's appreciate what we have instead of asking for more features. Okay, enough of my hot takes. I eventually found some end cities and started raiding. Got a handful of shulker shells, some decent loot, and 2 elytras. Which, pro tip from an amateur, always have a backup elytra just in case. Especially if you die a lot like I do. Anyways, when I had finished up my trip to the end, it was time to head home and start my build for the episode. This whole series, we have been looking at half a street. This is partially because I wasn't sure what I wanted to put on the other side, and partially because gathering resources just took way too long. But with my new elytra and some inspiration from Reddit, I now had a plan and a means of putting it in place. So I started gathering all my resources, which included flying all the way to our mesa and desert that's like 10,000 blocks away. On foot, that would take about 30 minutes to get there, but it only took 5 with my new wings. I collected thousands of blocks of all different types before it was finally time to get to building. I started with a little building for the corner of the street. Since the city is inspired by French architecture, I wanted to add something France is famous for: bakeries. I used mud bricks and a lot of glass to make a cool little bakery that maybe we can store some food and baked goods in. Next, I wanted to add some height, so I started building a residential building with a store on the bottom floor. Not quite sure what I want it to be yet, but I was thinking maybe a bookstore would be cool. Leave a comment down below what kind of store you want to see here. I used cyan terracotta for the majority of the building, which I needed to make a cactus farm for. Of course, I forgot to film it, but here it is. Back to the building, I used deep slate variants to add some details to break up the different levels. I originally made it 3 stories tall, but went back later and added another floor because I felt it just needed to be a hair taller. This last building is one of my favorites on the street. Other than probably the first one we built, which, yes, I will finish next episode. I wanted to add a fancy looking restaurant using dark wood at the base and brick and sandstone on the floors above. I love the little details in and around the windows that make the building feel very French and fancy. It feels like a true bistro. I wanted to try something a little bit different with the roof. I often struggle with making interesting looking roofs, so this was an attempt at fixing that. The buildings in Paris have such a unique roof shape, and I'm just experimenting with different techniques and styles to try and capture the vibe in Minecraft. Let me know what you think. Does the roof do that? Does it evoke Paris to you? Once the buildings were done, I felt like they needed a bit more detail to blend into the world. I started with awnings. This works to shallow the angle between the sidewalk and the walls of the building, making the street flow and not look so angular. I used quartz and red nether brick for the bakery and wool for the middle building. For the bistro, I used red, blue, and white wool acting as almost a bunting just to add a little variance to the street. Then I decided it was time to move all of my chests out of the street. You know, I like to think that I'm a relatively organized person, but this chest monster would say otherwise. As you can see, I got the road cleaned up. All of the chests that were sitting here and there and everywhere have all been moved over here. Obviously, we don't have a good storage system going on here, but maybe next episode we'll get into that. But yeah, it's cleaned up, and I really like these buildings. Obviously, they're not finished. Like, let's jump inside. Interior's not done, and we need to cover this back. But I plan on having another set of buildings that like back up to it. So I don't want to waste like materials designing the back. So we'll just cover it up with stone for now, and we'll deal with the other side later. But a couple things. So I like this street. I added some of the lampposts all the way down. I think that looks really good. But it's just missing something. Like there's just a lot of open sky, and you know, it just looks kind of dead. Like the buildings look cool, but it just doesn't look lived in. And as you can see, I added some banners. I think, let me know what you think. I like this banner. And then we also have this, and have this other banner. It's kind of like a generic French flag. So I tried to do something a little different with this. This is just kind of like an alternate, but I do like the look of it. But let me know what flags you like, and I'd like to add them around just for some pop of color. But yeah, let's work on adding some more life to this street, and I think I know what I'm gonna do. I started by adding some small trees, just like we did on the other sidewalk. This adds some visual interest and helps to fill in the skybox. Next, I wanted to add some elements hanging in between buildings. This would help connect the two sides of the street, making it look like one cohesive build, as opposed to a bunch of random and separate buildings. I also wanted to add to the skybox and frame our opera house down the street, and I think it looks great. I decided to add in a couple other little details that just make the street feel alive. I then started brainstorming what would the lore of this city be like? I built somewhat modern looking streets and buildings, but I just didn't want cars. I was reminded of the trolleys in Lisbon, Portugal, and how they've been around for such a long time, so I decided that I wanted to bring the famous yellow trolleys to this city. And I think it was a great little detail. And as we grow the city, we're going to continue to plop trolley cars all around. And with that final piece, let's take some time to look at all that we've done today. We killed the Ender Dragon, got some much needed shulker boxes and elytras, finished the buildings on our street, added a trolley, added some decorations to finish out the view. I could not be happier with how today went. All the progress that we made today, both within the game and on our city, makes me feel better about this world. It makes me want to stay in it and keep going. So I think it's safe to say that today we beat the 2-week Minecraft phase. I'm so excited about this world and what we've got going on. Stay around because the next episode we have something amazing planned. So thank you so much for watching. If you feel this video deserved a like, please leave that and subscribe to see more. Thank you, everyone.